How far did your in-laws go to force a name on your child? In my fiance's family, every firstborn son for 7 generations was required to be named Peter, the same name as my uncle who died in prison after what he did to those children. When I first met Jake's parents, they seemed like normal people. They lived in a split-level house with wood paneling and pictures of all the Peters covering every wall. 7 generations of Peters staring down at me during Sunday dinners. I'd mentioned my uncle once, early on, testing the waters. Jake's mom just waved her hand like she was swatting a fly. That has nothing to do with our Peters, she said, passing me more mashed potatoes. You can't let one bad apple spoil the whole bunch. The pregnancy test showed 2 lines on a Tuesday morning. Jake was thrilled, spinning me around the kitchen until I felt dizzy. His parents found out that weekend, and from that moment on, every conversation circled back to when little Peter arrives. His mom bought onesies with Peter the Eighth embroidered on them. His dad started refinishing an old crib, humming while he worked. I tried bringing up names with Jake, showing him lists I'd made. He'd kiss my forehead and say, "We'll figure it out," but I could see the weight of 7 generations pressing down on his shoulders. At 7 months pregnant, the baby shower felt like an ambush. Jake's mom had decorated everything in blue with Welcome Baby Peter banners stretched across the living room. The cake had 8 candles on it. When she gave her speech, she talked about legacy and tradition, about how proud Jake's great-great-great-grandfather would be. I sat there with my hands on my belly, feeling my son kick against my ribs. That night, I finally broke. "We're not naming him Peter," I told Jake. His parents heard me from the kitchen. The silence felt like a held breath before his mom started crying and his dad slammed his fist on the table. "You're destroying 7 generations of tradition," his mom wailed. "You think you're too good for our family?" I imagined my mother writing Peter on every birthday card, her hand hesitating before each letter. Christmas mornings where she'd avoid saying his name altogether, just calling him sweetheart or the baby. I imagined him at 8 years old, working on a family tree project for school, asking why he was named after great Uncle Peter. What would I say? I imagined my dad leaving the room whenever someone said the name too many times, the way he still did when anyone mentioned his brother. I imagined my son finding old family photos someday, pointing at the man who shared his name, asking innocent questions I'd have to answer. The weight of it pressed against my chest until I couldn't breathe. Jake and I had decided on Oliver months before he was born. We'd written it in my pregnancy journal, whispered it to my belly at night. It was a good name, a fresh start. We told ourselves his parents would understand once they met him. They'd hold him and smell that new baby smell and forget all about Peter's. Love would win. It had to. When the nurse brought the birth certificate, we didn't hesitate. Oliver James. Done. Jake's parents visited that afternoon. They read the card once, then again, like maybe they'd misread it. They held Oliver like he might break. 20 minutes later, they left, but they came back. For 3 weeks, this uneasy quiet settled over everything. They brought casseroles, did laundry, held Oliver a little longer each visit. Jake started saying things like, "They just need time." I started to believe him. We've been stupid. 3 weeks of silence was a warning, not acceptance. The knock came Tuesday morning. CPS. Someone reported we were neglecting our baby, that he was malnourished and living in squalor. The social worker walked through our spotless house, checked Oliver's weight charts, examined his nursery, found nothing. 2 weeks later, another visit. Drug use allegations. We took tests. We passed. The 3rd visit came with police. Anonymous tip about screaming, possible abuse. Neighbors started staring. 4 visits in 6 weeks. Each report more desperate. The social worker looked exhausted. "These calls are from the same number," she finally said. "Your son is clearly thriving, but I must investigate every report." Jake knew. We both knew. His parents were building a case that we were unfit, that Oliver belonged with them. The 5th report claimed we were cult members planning to sacrifice our baby. That's when the social worker intervened. "This is harassment. File a police report. Document everything." The detective pulled phone records. Dozens of calls from Jake's parents. False reports everywhere. The 6th time CPS arrived, they brought different paperwork. "We're flagging your case," the supervisor said. "Your in-laws are under investigation for false reports. Making false CPS claims is a crime." Jake's parents left evidence everywhere. Recorded calls claiming we were Satanists, that we'd kidnapped their real grandson Peter. The restraining order went through fast. 2 years minimum. No contact. Jake's extended family chose sides. Most chose tradition. We got uninvited from everything. Jake deleted Facebook after the 50th message calling him ungrateful. But Oliver is safe. He's growing up without people trying to erase him. Some nights Jake stares at old photos of family barbecues we'll never attend. But then Oliver laughs. Jake smiles, and we know we chose right. Our family is smaller now, but it's ours.
My sweet husband wants to have an hour of alone time every night after our son goes to sleep, but he doesn't know that I know what he's up to. My husband and I had our first baby back in June of last year. My husband's aunt gifted our son a lovely chunky knitted blanket. The blanket is so soft and I have made multiple comments about how I would like to find a full-size blanket just like it because it is so cozy and I'm kind of jealous of my baby. Well, this past weekend my husband snuck off to the store. He refused to tell me where he was going and why, but I later found a plastic bag with a logo of a local crafting store. That evening, my husband stated that he would like to have an hour of alone time every night after our son goes to sleep. He stressed that he would not like to be disturbed, but if I needed him then I could call and text him. I agreed to this because we are both adjusting to having very little me time since the birth of our son. Last night, during his alone time our son started crying. I checked the baby monitor and saw that he had simply lost his pacifier and was going back to sleep. However, the baby monitor also shows part of our son's room, not just his crib. In the corner of his room, I saw my husband sitting on the floor with a bunch of chunky yarn in front of him. I turned the volume up and heard that he was watching a YouTube video on how to finger knit. This sweet man is making me a blanket. He absolutely loves surprising me but is terrible at keeping secret.
I pretended to be unconscious in the hospital just to hear what my family really thought about me. It started 3 days after my motorcycle accident. The doctor said I was lucky to be alive. Cracked ribs, concussion, broken leg. But I was healing faster than expected. By day 3, I was fully awake, but something made me keep my eyes closed when I heard footsteps approaching. My older brother Camden entered first. "Still out cold," he said to someone behind him. "Good," came my mother's voice. Maybe this will finally teach her a lesson. My heart stopped. What lesson? "I mean, writing that death trap at 25, Mom continued. "She's always been reckless. Remember when she dropped out of law school? To become a paramedic," Camden corrected. Which, let's be honest, was probably smart. She never had the brains for law anyway. I lay there, perfectly still, as my family dissected my life choices like I was already dead. The worst part is the money, Mom sighed. "Do you know how much this hospital stay is costing? And she has that bare bones insurance from her ambulance job. We could always just..." Camden's voice dropped lower. "Don't even say it," Mom hissed. "I'm just saying, if she doesn't wake up, the life insurance would..." "Stop," Mom's voice was sharp. Someone might hear you. My blood turned to ice. They were discussing my life insurance while I was lying right there. Look, all I'm saying is maybe this is a sign, Camden continued. She's never fit in with this family anyway. Always playing hero, always making us look bad with her blue-collar job. Remember when she brought that homeless man to Christmas dinner? Mom asked, her voice dripping with disgust. Or when she testified against Uncle Richard at his trial, Camden added. Uncle Richard, the family secret we weren't supposed to talk about. The reason I'd cut contact with most of my relatives 2 years ago. She destroyed this family, Mom said quietly. Richard's in prison because of her lies. Lies. They were calling my testimony about what he did to me lies. The room fell silent. I heard the rustle of clothing like someone was leaning closer to my bed. You know what I think? Camden whispered. I think we need to have a serious conversation with her doctor about her prognosis. What kind of conversation? Mom's voice was barely audible. The kind where we discuss quality of life. Brain injuries can be unpredictable. Sometimes it's more merciful to let someone go. Camden? Think about it, Mom. She's never going to change. She'll wake up and go right back to embarrassing us. Back to her pathetic job, her bleeding heart causes, her vindictive crusade against our family. She cost us everything, Mom said, her voice growing stronger. The country club membership, the charity board positions. Do you know how humiliating it was when the Weatherbys asked me to step down? Because of her lies about Richard, Camden agreed. One troubled girl's fantasy destroyed a good man's reputation. Fantasy. 15 years of abuse was a fantasy to them. If she doesn't wake up, Camden continued slowly, the insurance money would solve a lot of problems. We could pay off the house, maybe take that European trip you've been wanting. How much is the policy worth? Mom asked. $200,000. Plus there might be a settlement from the motorcycle company. Faulty brakes, remember? My stomach churned. The brakes weren't faulty. I'd hit black ice. We'd have to be careful, Mom said. Make sure everything looks natural. Of course, grief-stricken family making the difficult decision to let their daughter go peacefully. When should we talk to the doctor? Soon, before she shows more signs of improvement. I heard footsteps moving closer to my bed again. Look at her, Camden said, his voice cold. 25 years old and this is what she has to show for it. No husband, no real career, no money. She's a disappointment. I had such hopes for her, Mom sighed. Law school, a proper marriage, grandchildren. Instead, she chose to throw it all away. For what? To save strangers who probably don't even appreciate it? She always was selfish. Mom agreed. Even as a child, always causing drama, always seeking attention. Attention. That's what they called my cries for help when Uncle Richard was hurting me. The funeral would actually help our image, Camden mused. Tragic young woman, taken too soon. People love a martyred hero story. We could set up a scholarship, Mom added, warming to the idea. Show how much we supported her career choice.